Hi everyone, welcome back. Well, this is it, the big conclusion, part 6. There's not a lot left to do on the flower itself. I'm just about finished. I'll be putting in a few veins, darkening up a couple of things, and finishing the center of the flower. And then I'll be finishing the background. And to finish the background, I'll be doing more negative painting, which is painting around the area that I want to be the subject. So you'll learn how to do that. Not a lot of that, but enough that you have at least a good idea how it's done. I hope you've enjoyed this series. I know I've enjoyed doing it for you. It's been a lot of fun. Don't forget, give me a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. And thank you all so very much for all of your wonderful comments and feedback. I really appreciate it. See you until next time. I have gone in and deepened all of the colors. And hopefully once I finish removing all of the masking, which I've removed a lot of the masking on here, I hope that it will be deep enough to give me what I'm looking for. And this is what I've been using to remove the masking fluid. So I just erase it. I only left a little bit on there so that you could see me taking it off. I've also gone in and erased a lot of the pencil marks. I don't care if there's still some on there. It just gives you a feeling of authenticity if you see pencil marks on there. So I'm not too concerned about that. So what I want to do next is detail on the flower. And to do those details, I'm going to put in a few veins, give it a little bit more specific shadowing on each of the petals. And I'd like to do it as quickly as possible. So I'm just going to wet these white areas in here. And then depending on how the flower turns, I'm going to put a little bit of color on the very edge of that using a liner brush. And because it's wet, make sure it's wet enough here. I don't want it, excuse me, I don't want it to be so wet that it floods the area, but I want it to be wet enough that it will allow the paint to curl up over that. So what I mean by that is I'll run this, gotta wet this again since it dried. Now I'm going to try this again, run this brush just along the very edge of the white part of the flower and see how it curls up over that edge there. That gives direction to the flower of the way that it's curling up and over. So I'm going to do that on all of these areas so that it looks a little bit more realistic. And as long as I can do that while it's wet, it works just fine. If I let it dry, then I lose that possibility. So like on this edge here, I'm just wetting the outside of that. That one got a little bit too much in there, so I'll just blot some of that out. Because it helps if I've got a little bit of paint on there. Now that will dry quite light, but it gives just enough of a feel, especially from a distance, to say the petal's curling up this way. Then I'm going to mix up just a little bit of permanent rose and cobalt blue to give me just a little bit darker color of the flowers here. So then I can put in some of the veins and areas that I can see that will help turn the flower. I don't want it to be really dark. I don't want it to be terribly noticeable, but just enough that you can see what direction the petal is turning in. Can you see that? Now it's going to dry a little bit lighter than that, so I'll have to see how much lighter that is. That petal I need to darken up better. Get my board back in position here. See a few leaves or petals in here that still need a little bit more dark to. Darkening up. Back to this light has shifted on me a little bit, so I'm going to have to raise this up just a tiny bit. And as I put in some of these lines, I don't want them to be too perfect. So I go back in with some clear water and just kind of mush them a little bit. Great technical term, mush. I stand and I don't know where my head is. It's up in the clouds. Okay, I think that's all I'm going to do on this for right now. I think I'll move to the background. So the background is just going to be deepening some areas, putting in more detail in some areas. So I think that's what I'll go to now. And like I've said all along, I am using the same color of greens that I'm always doing. This is still my palette, this is still my greens. So now I'll just start varying those greens again. Go a little warmer, go a little cooler, go a little darker, go a little lighter, using those same colors. first go-to color is always Prussian blue and Quin Gold. And that gives me that dark look that I'm going for. So I'm going to accentuate this as a leaf in here by painting on either side of it. And as I do that, it forms its own little leaf. And then I can go back in, fix that so that it looks a little bit more like a leaf. But for all intents and purposes, that's painting a negative part of the leaf. Negative painting is painting around the area that you want to become the subject, if that makes sense. I've got a few lines in here that I can still see. And I'm not even really sure what they were at one point, but I'm going to make those into leaves and stems. Just by painting around the area that I want it to become. This is what I'm kind of going for in this area up here. I'm going to make it a little bit brighter green by adding some Hansa Yellow Deep in there and painting that leaf I just made. Now as that dries, then I'll add other things to it to give it more a look of a leaf. I'm just adding colors in there. Giving it some shape and form. When I use Prussian blue and Quin Gold, it gives me a nice, deep, dark green. If I add too much, whoops, splash a little bit. If I add too much, it will almost make that blue go brown. That I don't want. Dropped in a little bit of quinacridone gold right into there. And now I'm just putting in Prussian blue. Back and making these other leaves stand out a little bit better just by darkening up the background. I want between these two leaves here to be darker than that leaf is there. So I'm going to change the color of this leaf a little bit. I'm going to add a touch of pink to that area. Just going to wet this stem here, add some color to it. Let that dry a little bit and then I'll add more color to it and deepen that color and let it wrap around there. I think I'll do that on this one as well. So I'm taking a mixture of Prussian blue and quin gold, and I'm going to run it along the edge like I did on the petals, so it kind of goes into the stem a little bit and gives it a little bit of dimension. That one dried a little bit too much. Oops, too much water. A little bit too much, a little bit too little. While that's still wet, I can continue to add color in there. I want the outside of that to be a lighter green. A little pink to that area too. I think when I started out I said this was going to be darker back in here, so I guess I should darken that up a little bit more. We'll make that stem come out a little bit more too. So I'm going to show you my palette again so you can see the colors. So when I'm putting colors in, I just grab some Prussian blue, put it in there, grab some gold, put it in there, and then when I'm ready to paint, I just grab some. So I'm not mixing it a lot on my palette. I'm letting it mix more on my paper. So I need to do something with that. Make that into something. What should I make? So what I'm doing is trying to bring this so that it comes down into this way. Just making shapes out of this. So negative painting, trying to make it into something there. This into another leaf. That way it looks like there's all kinds of leaves, and it goes back inside and goes down deep in there. A little bit more there. Want to make sure that I've got really dark values around that flower to allow it to really pop out and shine. Giving suggestions of veins coming in there. But I don't want them to be real obvious. So I just mush the lines a little bit. I'm just going to wet this and do like I did these over here. I'm going to go back in and darken that up a little bit more in there. Used a little bit of burnt sienna to Maybe give it a little bit, get that head out of that frame, you silly lady. Glancing at this, I'm seeing my flower is dead center in here, so when I put a mat on it, I'm going to have to move it this way or this way so that flower is not dead center in there. But with cropping, that makes it very easy to take care of that. And you don't want something that is dead center in your painting, because that's not a very good composition. Better to find that now. I mean, I kind of knew it all along, but I knew that I could also crop it to pull it off better. Change the direction of that petal so that it's not leading you off the page quite as much. Change the direction of that one too. Okay, now I'm going to show you something else that I do. So I made these L's. Can't see them very well, but there I just took a mat and cut it kitty corner so that they form these L shapes, and then I can move them this way, or I can move them out or up so that I can see how I want to mat that. So if I come in, so go to the very outside edge there, and it's still right dead center. So I can come in and make this a square painting. Yeah, that still does it. How about if I do that? That looks better. So it's more towards this side. So I am going to sit and look at this for a while and see if there's anything more on here. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I didn't do the stamens in there. Duh! And those are bright orange, yellowish colors. So I'm just going to highlight. This is full strength Hansa Yellow Light. Hansa Yellow Deep, sorry. And I need to some color on those. And they are a lighter pink. Okay, I think that's it. Rather than having so much of that background showing, like that, I could either go this way and crop it, or this way and crop it. The jury's still out on that one.